Spider-Man, the most popular comic book character of all time. People started off more popular before him, and others have passed him briefly after he was created. But at this point, it's solidified. Spider-Man is the biggest comic book character ever. The most popular comic book character of all time has got to have some of the greatest comic book stories in history, right? You guessed right, people. He most certainly does. The moment he even first appeared in a comic was the moment he started having banger books. Seriously, you go back to Amazing Fantasy 15, it's fire. The story is fast-paced. Peter becomes Spider-Man like in the first 3 pages of the book. It's literally breakneck speed, and I loved it. The good stories would continue to roll from his inception in the 60s all the way to the 2000s. He's got like legit 40 years worth of immaculate stories. He's even got some really good stories in the 2010s and the 2020s, but the real meat and potatoes of Spider-Man is in this sweet spot right here. But what are his best comics? The ones that you just can't miss if you're a Spider-Man fan? Well, today, we're going to talk about it. The best Spider-Man comics of all time. This is not easy, people. The GOAT superhero has a lot of godlike books. Like I said, he has at least 40 years of some really godlike stuff. In these 40 years, there's so many great stories, it makes it very hard to narrow down the actual best comics. It's also hard because some of these stories are only like one comic, and some are like a few issues, and some are like entire runs that make the story feel complete. We're going to make a top 5 list for all the best stories in Spider-Man comics history, but before we do that, we get into it, we got to put some respect where respect is due. Let's talk about the first 38 issues of Spider-Man, the Ditco and Lee era. I strongly urge any Spider-Man fan who wants to get into Spider-Man to just start here. Usually I'll tell people to pick up the current run and whatever issue it's on because comics are meant to be picked up and played, pick up and read it as you go. But the current Spider-Man run sucks. It's trash. It's horrible. So for Spider-Man, at the very least, I'd start from the beginning. Read his origin story in Amazing Fantasy 15 and then start from the top, people. Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 38. You'll get a better understanding of the Spider-Man mythos, but more importantly, you can see how the characters were actually intended to be written and used when they were originally created. These are the literal creators of Spider-Man. The 2 of these guys made Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and all of his original villains, man. You see Chameleon, Vulture, Doc Ock, Lizard, Sandman, Scorpion, Green Goblin, Electro. You get to actually see how these characters were meant to be portrayed and written by the creators. Before they were changed into someone else's ideas for the character, this is how the OGs wanted them to go down. This is how the OGs wanted them. To me, I think it's important to go back and understand intention and just what things were like at the time. But also, these guys cooked. Like, even if you read it from today's standards, these books are fire. The artwork is second to none. It's like the best artwork around. It's truly immaculate, and it definitely holds up to this day. I even prefer it over a lot of modern comic books. The art in these books is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. Ditko is the freaking man. Stan Lee as a writer is also incredibly descriptive, and although at times it can feel like there's like a wall of text being thrown at you, it's also really nice to get such like a good picture of the situation. I personally thoroughly enjoyed the original run of Spider-Man and how Peter acts and how he's characterized, his motivations, how cocky he can even be. This stuff just is everything to me, man. Again, I strongly recommend starting here, people. But let's do the top 5 comics in Spider-Man history. Number 5, Amazing Spider-Man 500. This book would be a perfect ending to the Amazing Spider-Man story. Amazing Spider-Man 500 gives Spider-Man fans so freaking much. It shows off Peter's start and Peter's ending as well. We all know his beginnings, but the ending is crazy. It's Peter, he's older, he's by his Aunt May's grave, and he's trying to be talked down to turn himself in. Peter refuses, and he'd rather go down swinging. He speaks about how MJ loved him to the very end and how he and MJ have a son named Ben. Like, was there anything else that was going to happen? And he's going to go down fighting. Part of the story alone is just like, damn. Peter went down scrapping. He didn't give up all the way to the very end. Even the bad guys make Peter look so cool. The commanding officer's talking about how Spider-Man is going to like rip you apart if you hesitate. So fire, man. The next part's even harder hitting because Peter turns to see his beginnings as Spider-Man and he tries to stop the spider from biting him. But he can't. He knows it's going to happen and all he says is, "I'm sorry, Ben." And it's... my heart sank to my stomach right there, dog. This is followed up by like a dreamlike sequence and Spider-Man wakes up fighting Sandman and the story rotates to many of his most iconic battles that honestly we were just talking about in his first 38 issues. We see Spider-Man fighting Lizard and Sandman, Electro, Vulture, Spider-Man lifting up the debris, Spider-Man not being able to save Gwen, the high highs, and the low lows. The next set of pages are Spider-Man talking to the astral plane version of Doctor Strange. Strange speaks to him about how the greatest thing we can do in life is have an opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives. And Spider-Man has made countless differences. Even still, Spider-Man questions though if it was worth it. Doctor Strange says, "Come with me," and Spider-Man's just like, "Bring it on." The next page, dude is literally battling everyone he's ever fought. You'll see Venom, Juggernaut, Goblin, freaking Molten Man, Doctor Doom. Everyone's here, man. It's like Smash Ultimate. The next thing you know, Spider-Man comes to in the real world and he's commanding the Avengers and giving them orders. They trust him and all. You see this kid's growth from puny young child to a young adult who's garnered the trust of some of the most powerful people to have ever lived. After the day saved, Doctor Strange bequeaths to Peter a gift. Peter opens it later that night, and it's... God, this comic is just so sweet. Uncle Ben and Peter speak for a bit, and Uncle Ben asks Peter the most important question. Are you happy? Peter tells him he is. Ben's like, well, that's all that truly matters, son. The hug and Ben vanishes. Peter goes back inside to his wife, MJ, who kisses him goodnight and wishes him a happy birthday. What an immaculate comic, people. Holy moly. There's so much to write home about. Peter's growth, the comic showing Peter's past, Uncle Ben asking Peter not anything about responsibility, but only Peter's happiness, MJ with Peter to end the day. It's a perfect story, guys. If you were to say this is the end of Spider-Man, a lot of people would be okay with that. They'd be like, yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 500. That's the perfect ending to Spider-Man. But we're going to move on to the fourth best comic. The fourth best comic in Spider-Man history, Maximum Carnage. This story bangs. It's spanned across multiple Spider-Man titles and features, in my opinion, the best Spider-Man villain, Carnage. Carnage is on a massive killing spree and he's not alone. Dude recruits other awful, deplorable, dope-ass characters to join him. Doppelganger and Shriek started off, but later on, the Demon Goblin and Carrion join him as well. This is a team of ruthless evildoers, pretty freaking powerful. So powerful that opposites must come together to defeat an enemy that neither can beat alone. That's right, Venom and Spider-Man team up to take down this team. But they're not alone either. You've got Black Cat, they've got Cloak and Dagger with them, Deathlock shows up, Iron Fist, Firestar, heck, even Captain America's here. So you've got this team of like really downright evil people literally just running amok, murdering people, kidnapping J. Jonah Jameson. And then you've got this like ragtag group of heroes trying to stop the madness and bring the evildoers to justice, calm the civilians down. From this standpoint, it's a pretty fairly simple story. It's not super deep, but the layers come from Spider-Man and Venom having to team up with one another. Yes, there's a team on both sides, but the real crux of the story is Carnage versus Spider-Man and Venom. Spider-Man doesn't believe he can trust Venom, and Venom doesn't want to work with Spider-Man, but they both have to in order to save the city. You've got awesome team-up scenes like them swinging together, the iconic handshake scan, Carnage throwing a baby out of a window and Venom saving the baby before Spider-Man could. But there's also parts that don't just look cool, but challenge the characters, like how Black Cat is willing to let go of the fact that Venom nearly killed her because she needs him in order to defeat Carnage. Spider-Man also at this time is unwilling to join the group, but Black Cat tells him this, and it's like, whoa, like this woman almost was murdered by this man and she's willing to work with him for the better good. Like, what am I doing over here? The real crux of it all is Spider-Man doesn't want to kill anyone, and he knows if he works with Venom, he's working with a killer. Venom kind of wants to kill a lot, and he wants to kill Carnage very badly. Another large part of the story is MJ being worried about Peter. She knows what Venom does to him, and she herself is scared of Venom. And then Carnage is even worse. Now Venom's offspring is butchering the city, and Spider-Man has to work with Venom to stop him? Are you serious? I'd be terrified for my partner. My favorite part of the story is probably towards the very end of the story. Spider-Man's like in the park looking at himself in the water when Venom sneaks up behind him. And Venom is pissed off because he feels like he let Carnage get away without Venom being able to kill him. Venom's exhausted though from being tortured all day, and Spider-Man just catches him. He's like, don't worry, man, I got you. Like, we'll work through this. But then Carnage comes out of the pond that Spider-Man was staring at, and he's still alive, and Spider-Man's like, no! And then Venom's like, yes! Because now Venom has a chance to kill him, and it's just hilarious to me. So freaking funny. Spider-Man, Carnage, and Venom's dynamic is just so freaking godlike to me, and that's why it's so high up here. It's one of my favorite dynamics in all fiction. Spider-Man's morals are challenged constantly as he works with his biggest hater and adversary to take down an even bigger douchebag, Peak. This is the only story on here like that doesn't really hit you in the feels. It's just straight up raw and awesome. Artwork is insane. It's well done. In a perfect world, we would have had this as a movie with Tom Hardy's Venom and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man fighting Carnage. It would have been so cool, man. Maximum Carnage has been adapted as a direct video game adaptation in the 90s on the Sega Genesis, and it's also adapted in a 90s cartoon. In the 90s cartoon, Dormammu and Mordo are there, and they're like trying to help out Carnage for release Dormammu, and Spider-Man's teaming up to stop Carnage with Venom, so it's kind of like Maximum Carnage. It's like a loose adaptation. I don't know why these guys are here, though.
What in the name of...
It is my master, Dormammu, who confers this gift upon you, Cassidy.
Gift?
The video game, though, this is straight up Maximum Carnage. This adaptation is insane. You can call in heroes to help you who appear in the comics. The bosses are people who fight the heroes in the comics, plus some extra ones. The cutscenes are damn near directly taken from the comics as well. It's not a perfect game. It's a 96 16-bit side-scroller. but you can feel the love for the comics in this game. The marketing for the game too, super fun. I love corny stuff like this, man. Maximum Carnage is just an incredible story, and I strongly recommend all Spider-Man fans get into it. We are winding it down, people. The top 3 comics for my GOAT, Spider-Man. In number 3, Kraven's Last Hunt. This story is phenomenal. The book has an incredibly serious tone to it that I just love. It also uses great literary devices like repetition to really hook the reader in. It's so masterful. The artwork is also stupendous. It's Kraven's Last Hunt, much like the title suggests. Dude's going to finally kill Spider-Man, and he's on like some crazy type of time. He's diving into a pit of spiders and eating them. Kraven's wildin'. Kraven catches Spider-Man off guard and he drugs him, making him much weaker. Then Kraven proceeds to dismantle the wall crawler and bury him alive. Yo, it's raw as hell. Spider-Man is literally 6 feet underground. And that's it. The story just continues. Vermin plays also like a pretty big role in this book. He's like Spider-Man's rat man villain, rogue. He's harassing the people of New York City by dragging them into the sewers. It's horrifying. Imagine this happened to you, a dude who sometimes shows the physical strength equal to Spider-Man just dragging you down into the nasty sewers of New York City. I live in New York. The streets are disgusting. I can't imagine what's underneath being anything better. It's probably significantly worse. The imagery in this story portraying MJ bash a rat like Charlie from Always Sunny is also phenomenal. The symbolism.
Symbolism. What is the symbolism there?
Kraven then believes he must become the Spider to prove that he is Spider-Man's better. So now you have Kraven in a Spider-Man suit running around terrorizing New York City, and then you have like a rat man underground in the sewers terrorizing New York City. All while the real Spider-Man is 6 feet under. Kraven finds Vermin and beats him down and captures him, okay? So things are getting crazy. We haven't even seen Spider-Man in a bit. Here we go. Peter Parker is 6 feet under and he's going through some things in his inner being. An inner struggle to overcome his demons, but it's the strength of his love for MJ that pulls him out of the grave. He finds a newspaper and finds out he's been gone for weeks. Weeks! He races home to be with his wife. God, I freaking love the story. Peter and MJ forever. After he spends some time with MJ, Peter races to find Kraven, and when he finds Kraven, Kraven reveals that he captured Vermin and wants Spider-Man to fight Vermin. Kraven releases the caged rat man, and Spider-Man reluctantly beats the hell out of Vermin. He doesn't want to, but he beats the living crap out of Vermin, but he doesn't want to deliver the final blow. He knows it's wrong in the moment to annihilate this captured dude who can maybe get help and become better. This gives Vermin the chance and he fights back and nearly kills Spider-Man, and then Kraven steps in and stops him. Kraven feels he's proven his point. He's Spider-Man's better now. Not only did he best Spider-Man in combat, he also beat Vermin in combat, who bested Spider-Man in combat. I mean, not really. Spider-Man won. He let Vermin win after he, didn't want to kill him, but whatever. Spider-Man is tired and exhausted, so Kraven carries him to a window and permits him to leave. Kraven won. In Kraven's eyes, it's over. Spider-Man's like, dog, I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to come back and I'm going to body you. Trust me. Kraven's like, nah, don't worry about that. I'm never going to hunt again. It's over. Spider-Man leaves, with intentions of coming back. But then Kraven finds his coffin, takes out a shotgun, and blows out his own brains. Holy shit. Damn. Just damn. Spider-Man then hunts down Vermin in the sewers, apprehends him, and takes him in to hopefully get some help. He finally goes home to be with his beautiful, loving wife. Banger story, everybody. The imagery the whole time is so poetic by itself alone. You get to see a peek Peter and MJ. The serious tone of the story really also helps set it apart from a lot of other Spider-Man stories. A Spider-Man villain literally blew out his own brains in this story, guys. He completed his own journey and then offed himself. That is insane. This story also has a really hopeful Spider-Man as well. It touches all sides of Spider-Man's spectrum, the happiness and the sadness. Spider-Man freaking died at one point. I would love to see this story adapted, man. Preferably as an animated movie, but really put it in a show or a live action movie or game. Shattered Dimensions does not count. Or anything. Please, something, please. It's so incredible, it would print money. I just want to see the story in another medium. Give me more Kraven's Last Hunt, people, please. Number 2, the second best story in Spider-Man comics history goes to Child Within. Now this is a story, people. I couldn't believe my eyes when I was reading this comic. It's something so great. The book features Harry Osborn's Green Goblin, Spider-Man, and Vermin again, actually. Odd that a character that gets so little love is in 2 of the 3 greatest Spider-Man comics ever, but here he is. Vermin is back, and he's got a child with him in the sewers now. The kid asks to be taken home, and Vermin actually obliges. He goes up to the surface and hijacks a man's car and starts driving the kid home. At the same time, Spider-Man is informed Vermin is loose again, and he hasn't been exactly cured yet. Also, at the same time, Harry is raising his little Normie, you know, the little tyke he's got, but he can't stop having these flashbacks or ghost sightings of his father admonishing him for not being meaner to his own son. You see it as like parallels between the best friends' lives. Harry did everything for his father and he still isn't good enough. Where on the inverse, Spider-Man did everything he could to get Vermin help and he refused and just left. They're both super frustrated with themselves and they feel inadequate. Vermin takes the boy home and tells the boy to wait outside. He breaks inside himself, sneaks into the bedroom where the man of the house slept. He said, "Daddy, I'm home," as he touched the man, but the dude woke up, pissed off, reached for his gun and shot Vermin, who dove out the window and ran away. Vermin feels all alone and goes to end his own life when his doctor tries to stop him from doing so. Spider-Man shows up and Vermin is filled with rage. The two go at it and Vermin manages to escape. At the same time, Harry's visions of Norman are becoming all too real and Norman's memories are starting to take a hold of Harry. Mance can no longer ignore his father's influence and Harry slips into the Green Goblin suit again. Harry hunts down Spider-Man and the scrap is on sight. No fake names either. Harry calls him by his government and everything. The two battle and Harry manages to knock him unconscious and we get this awesomely drawn scene. It reminds me so much of Naruto and Sasuke's final battle when they flash back to their older selves seeing themselves as kids. Literally beautiful, man. Harry continues to beat the ever-living brakes off of Peter for everything that's gone down. And in the same time, Vermin begins to paint the wider picture for all of us. We get to get a better understanding of the character. That house from earlier was Vermin's old home, and the home of the child who was with Vermin. Because the child was Vermin. You see, in the asides of the story, you get an interview with Dr. Kafka and Vermin, and it's revealed that he believes he's an 8-year-old. But he also reveals he is 31 years old and was experimented on by Armin Zola, which is how he came to be Vermin. He also reveals that the man whom he called father before used to molest him when he was a child. Vermin has come back to kill the man that has caused him so much pain, but he just can't muster up the strength to do so. He still has that child in him that remembers his father and blocked out all of the trauma he caused. He even puts a gun to his father's head, but he can't do it. Spider-Man arrives and it's on sight again. Vermin's like, well, at least I know I hate you. The two get to scrapping, but then Harry's goblin shows up and it's more of a fight than it ever was before. Harry blows him up and Vermin falls to the ground right in the line of the police fire. They raise their guns to annihilate the rat bastard, but Spider-Man swoops in at the nick of time, creates a web shield, and then snags Vermin all in one fellow's swoop. It's crazy. This is why he's the GOAT. Harry would follow him. He swoops in and snags Peter, and the two of them go flying together. Peter unmasks himself and Harry, and they continue to fight before Peter lets Harry know he's done fighting. If he wants to kill him, just do so. Harry gets on his glider and tries to impale Peter, but at the last second, Harry just couldn't do it and he swerves out of the way. Peter runs over to make sure Harry's okay and Harry slaps him away. He hops on his glider and he just flies away. Peter stands there wondering if he did the right thing letting him leave, but he thought to himself, Harry didn't kill tonight. Maybe there's a chance he can get help and be good. Peter visits his parents' grave and the story ends. This story, holy moly, this story, y'all, I can't. Someone recommended me this story like 2 years ago, and it took me a year to like actually get around to picking it up, and then I read it in like a day, if that. It's only 6 stories, so it's not too crazy, but I just read it instantly. The depth of Vermin's character is immaculate. Peter struggling with wanting to save Vermin, even though he's constantly trying to harm people, phenomenal. Harry struggled with his father's expectations, freaking picture perfect. This comic book is so incredible. I need it animated pronto. Imagine Green Goblin and Spider-Man duking it out and then flashing back to them as children, flashing back to them as friends in college, flashing back to Peter with May and Harry with Norman. Please give us this. I can just picture it so clearly in my head. It must be created for the betterment of mankind. What a godlike story, people. Before we get to the #1 comic of all time, I'm going to touch on some honorable mentions. Not all of these are incredibly prestigious, but they all do in some way have iconic moments or just incredible storytelling, and they deserve being worth a mention, okay? The night Gwen Stacy dies is known as the moment that ended the Silver Age of comics and ushered in the Bronze Era. This book kind of changed how comics were written. It taught Spider-Man he can't save everyone. Next book I want to bring some light into is Flowers for Rhino. It's a phenomenal story that came out after the 2000s, and it gives Rhino like excellent characterization. It's very well done, and I highly recommend it. Spider-Man Back in Black is raw as hell. Definitely check out this story if you haven't. He's a monster. He's beating the brakes off of people. I loved it. The original Gang War features characters that deserve way more appearances like Rose and Hobgoblin. Phenomenal. Captain Universe Spider-Man, we get like a 3-issue run. Some of the most powerful Spider-Man moments we'll ever see. This dude could probably be Goku, for being honest. And then lastly, Venom's origin story. Venom as a character has so much depth and it's so fun to read. If you're a fan of the character at all, you gotta check out his origin story. All right, y'all, the #1 Spider-Man comic in Spider-Man history, Death of Jean DeWolff. I cannot say enough great things about the story. I truly can't. Police captain and longtime friend of Spider-Man, Jean DeWolff, is murdered and no one knows who did it. Readers can literally play a game of whodunit while reading alongside the story as they go. It's super interactive and engaging off of that alone, but the story has so much more to offer than just that. Spider-Man is trying to figure out who killed her when another murder happens, the murder of a judge who also happens to be a longtime friend of Daredevil. The man escapes after murdering the judge and he's still at large. This serial killer then goes on to murder a priest as well. The perpetrator, known as Sin Eater, has killed a police captain, a judge, and a priest all in one day, as if to make a statement that the pillars of society will fall. Sin Eater goes to strike again. This time he's trying to kill J. Jonah Jameson. But J. Jonah Jameson's on vacation. Robbie goes to take the fall and protect everybody when Peter launches part of a printing press at Sin Eater's head, knocking him out cold. Apprehended, he's questioned about why he did what he did. Daredevil, however, realizes something. This man isn't the same man from earlier that killed the judge. Daredevil can hear people's heartbeats, and this was a completely different heart. He convinces Spider-Man to go with him to check out the apartment of the killer, see if they could find more clues and figure out what's going on. But when they get there, they realize that second in command to Jean DeWolff, Stan Carter, lived next door to the perpetrator. Well, Daredevil and Spider-Man go inside the perpetrator's apartment. They see there's a door joining the apartment of the Sin Eater and Stan. They check inside Stan's apartment and they find all of the Sin Eater's equipment. Spider-Man freaks out. He knows Sin Eater's still at large and he's trying to kill Jonah. He races over to where Jonah is, and Betty Brant is actually there as a secretary and she's about to get murdered. Thankfully, Spider-Man flies in and beats the absolute mess out of Sin Eater. Sin Eater is now behind bars and you think the story's over. But it's revealed that Stan Carter had worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. back in the day and they had tested on him, used him as a test subject, so now he suffers from many mental health deficiencies and has this natural alter ego living inside of him. In short, Stan Carter gets out of jail by pleading insanity. Spider-Man is pissed. He's livid. He visits Stan's apartment, but when he finds Stan, it's not the Stan he remembered. This dude can hardly walk or talk, and Stan reveals the reason this happened is because Spider-Man beat him so bad that he now has everlasting health issues that'll never go away. This causes Spider-Man and Peter to freak out even more. You know, he just leaves. He's like, I couldn't have done this. There's no way. He's now scared to use his own strength in fights anymore. He fights Electro and he's punched him like a marshmallow. Electro just zaps him and walks away. Spider-Man's kind of gone soft now. The story continues with Peter struggling, not wanting to hurt people like he hurt Stan. But also, he's a hero and he knows he has to beat people up and save people. Peter has to work himself up. He talks with MJ to psych himself up and he goes to stop Electro. At the same time, though, Stan is falling victim to the Sin Eater alter ego again. As Spider-Man is setting out to get his mojo back, Stan is fighting his demons and he is losing. He dons the Sin Eater costume again, grabs his gun and hits the streets. Spider-Man fights Electro and he's fighting weak at first, but he's trying to let Electro psych him up, you know? Maybe he'll punch him into like an angry state where he wants to fight back. And he does. Spider-Man lets loose on that clown and he beats the brakes off of him. At the same time, Sin Eater is outside having a standoff though with the police. Sin Eater has a shotgun to a kid's head. Stan regains control for a moment and he throws the child out of the way and the cops unload on him. Spider-Man leaves the building with Electro and webbing and he sees the scene as he races over. Stan is posted up on the side of the wall covered in bullet holes and he's like, I won. I defeated the Sin Eater. It's over. Spider-Man checks the shotgun and he sees it wasn't even loaded. Stan had tricked the alter ego and now Stan can finally be at peace. Wowzers, what a freaking book. Y'all, this story is so freaking good. Spider-Man is with MJ and he's questioning himself if he can really do this anymore, not because he's not good enough, but because he's too damn good at what he does. Stan Carter's entire arc of being a villain and a victim at the same time. Everybody loves the Spider-Man team up with Daredevil, come on. Trying to figure out who the Sin Eater was while you're reading it for the first time? Y'all, this book is godlike. Do not read any future appearances of Sin Eater. I promise you, it is not worth it. No other writer comes even remotely close to the original Sin Eater author, Peter David. He just understands the character so well and makes him feel so grounded. Later appearances are just bleh. No show has actually adapted this storyline. Spectacular Spider-Man maybe hinted at doing it in the future, but it was canceled. The Spider-Man 3 game apparently has it as like a side arc, but it's a movie game. It's not a full-fledged adaptation. It doesn't really count in my eyes. I would love to see this story as an adaptation. I would honestly love to see any of the stories I've mentioned today as an adaptation. An animated movie about each would be my absolute dream come true. But yeah, that's my top 5 Spider-Man comics of all time. Amazing Spider-Man 500, Maximum Carnage, Kraven's Last Hunt, Child Within, Death of Jean DeWolff. Yep, I'm definitely comfortable with this ranking. If you disagree, let me know down below what you think are the top 5 Spider-Man comics of all time. Check out the Discord. I'm going to have a link in the description. Subscribe to the channel if you really like the content. Become a member of the channel if you really love me. And that's all for this video, guys. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace!